and all the stuff that's being done in Spain, you can tell the results are showing, and there's so many great players popping up.
All right, so we are going to be going into the game right now. As you can see right now, game number 1 of day number 2, Superbrawl. You know it, you love it. Sword start here for Noerum is one of my favorite starts, generally speaking. It has been for a while, mainly because if you want to flex around playing Xiaoyu or Siphon, Sword start just allows you to do that very effectively, especially now that Edge of Night has been fixed on Siphon, which I realized is a while back, but it was a big hindrance for Sword starts for a while, where you ended up getting dropped like Sword plus Sword Chain. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to slam an item because you would just literally end up blocking out your carry before you committed, so that's something to keep an eye out for here. Belt and Sword is just a very nice way to flex around them.
Quick reminder for Noerum, yesterday he started off day 1 with 3 first places in a row. It's going to be hard to try and do the same thing on this day 2, but definitely something to watch out for, because it seems like when he is focused and is in his game and is comfortable with what he's doing, he can put up monster results even against a field like we saw in day 1 with 32 of the best players in EMEA.
Yeah, for sure. So I can get gold before 1 fall, which is a massive thing because it allows you to hold on to key pairs. Okay. Yeah, goes for making 10 here instead. Could have held on to something like the Elise and Silas and be like, okay, I'm just going to play a Whisper reroll, which is, it is still a thing. Again, you need to hit the Siphon and all that stuff, but interesting to look out for here as well. No Namsi so far either, but it's going to be holding those options open right now. Making this early econ, baby, but like, where would you traditionally go from here?
Gonna depend on the next few shops. I think you have, obviously, the trainer start is looking pretty good. As long as you find that Heimer pair, maybe a Tristana early on, you're able to get that Nomsy going. And, you know, those Nomsy starts give you such clear direction while still having kind of the chance that if you hit Idis, if you hit Siphon, if you hit Shyvana, you have that 3-way pivot between different dragons for kind of your frontline tank. And Cannoneer Crest is there, but not really considered a great augment in this set. We've talked about it in pretty much every single tournament, because you're not really, you know, the emblem doesn't really do much for Cannoneers. It's just the extra trait, but there's no transformative thing like Revel, for example, like Whispers we saw yesterday a lot as well.
Yeah, Revel and Whisper on Deisik specifically are super transformative. I think that this is going to be a reroll from Deisik. His items are not leaning in towards something like a Varus angle. Built together can work. It's not like it's a bad option here. Again, we can't see his entire board, so it's kind of hard for us to really do it. Calculated loss, I don't think really is something that you want to be looking at playing if you are at Deisik. And just in general, it's not an augment I've seen him prioritize. Going back to the augment we just saw before, right? Going into something like Trade Sector. Trade Sector is really interesting. I pick it a lot on free too, because what it allows you to do that is it allows you to go for those more aggressive levels, because you are just going to be making that goal back naturally.
Going to be better together in the end. Has Locket, has a Rod as well to try and build maybe towards another Locket, but no, it's been just a full slam all around here. Going to be the Ionic Spark as well in this case, but a pretty tanky comp already. You know, obviously with the shielding, you want to have units that can make use of it, and the 3 Cavalier start with Mirage as well is going to be something with the extra HP from Sejuani as well that will be able to withstand a lot of damage in these early fights where there isn't really that much DPS coming in for most of these carry units.
Yeah, for sure. And also Ionic Spark does synergize with Better Together. It is an aura item, so it has both of the attacks, which is interesting. Okay, speaking of interesting things to look out for here. Silas and Shop. I don't know if I'm just like continuously over-evaluating Silas, but I think that Silas is one of those better auctions. Okay, Clear Mind from Odesza. That is one of the I wouldn't say the most broken augments, but it's an augment that really can help you accelerate your game plan, right? Like you look at this right now. He even has a pretty okay board. Like he is going to be losing some HP. I think that's quite natural, right? Like you have Sejuani too, you have a Yone you can start building around. Like you have pretty good building blocks all around here. And going into the like stage 3-5, stuff like that, you're going to be so far ahead of everyone else. It's just going to be kind of insane to look out for.
Chuso as well, we see here with Leona too already. They're going to have a decent frontline at Twitch for the extra attack speed all around for the comp right now. But looking at the augments, I want to think about Wida, augments that have been picked that aren't necessarily generic, that are maybe leading players into specific comp, and now the players can scout and say, hey, this guy's playing Cannoneers, this guy's playing whatever it is. With these augments, they're kind of locking you into one direction. I think is really important at this point in stage 2.
Yep, for sure. So we do see that Odesza actually did win a round, so that is a positive sign for him. New pair? I mean,
expensive?
It's very easy to fit on the board, no? Like, you just do this, sell this off, and
full
bang.
swap.
This is an even stronger board now. You could even start Odesza, Odesza turn it around and start win streaking from here on out. This is an incredibly this is just a very nice shot from him, to be honest. The only thing that could have been better here would have been that he hit a Nunu too and could be able to fit this Aatrox on the board, so you had a warrior buff for Yone as well. But my oh my, is it a strong position right now.
Going into this fight here, we see already Aatrox, one of the carries that we saw a lot yesterday in stage 2. Aatrox and Set especially were doing really, really well for players trying to win streak, trying to at least preserve HP. Aatrox, of course, when 2-star with his kind of sustaining, lifesteal ability, he's able to really kind of 1v4, 1v5 many of these fights if he has the right setup. Already one item built onto the Gargoyle Storm Plate, so going to have that extra armor to start things off, and a pretty good win here for SwellerTiger, hoping to win streak all the way into Krugs alongside a player like Deisik. It looks like now the 2 players still at 100 HP.
Yeah, I mean, basically, and we saw his board as well, which is akin to the one we just saw produced by Odesza, just a little bit better, a little bit more well-rounded, had better items to work with, right? So that's something that you ought to keep in mind here. Now, first carousel, that's an Olaf with a cloak on it. That actually could be an angle for someone if they were feeling going to skills gone route. We have seen that perform at the both ends of the spectrum, right? Like throughout yesterday so far, as we So
the player that did it the best was actually SwellerTiger, who is in this lobby. Olaf still has not been picked up. Is this going to be SwellerTiger trying to emulate what he was able to do yesterday? Not going to be the case. Chuso ends up picking up that Olaf instead, and SwellerTiger goes for the Twitch with the tier in the end. Chuso has a lot of components still open, hoping to maybe slam them if he wants to stay, at this pretty healthy 94 HP range, kind of middle of the pack coming into stage 3.
Yeah, and something else I also want to highlight here, as we do see that Petikk has gone for the Jewel Lotus, is that the rod was left open. With the Mirage being Executionist, it's one of the Mirages where you don't really feel the need to play something like a Deisha in, to be completely honest, right? It's very hard for you to pull off Deisha when it's not Spellsword and it's not Dawnbringer. That is just the state of the meta right now. Even Warlords, we did see that yesterday with Suso in game number 1, where I still believe that you should probably have pivoted away from it once you reach level 9, but again, that is just my own opinion. Having the early IE here is going to be very lovely for Petikk. Little minor mistake here as well, I want to highlight this. His Anivia was stuck for just a second. It's not really going to be a difference maker in this fight in particular. I think it is a difference between killing 1 unit here, which could be relevant in the later stage of the game. But because of the fact that Twitch, I believe, is the one that was at the top list of Anivia, has 6 attack range due to being a swift shot. Anivia only has 4, meaning that she had to move to hit that angle, and Switch is never going to move, neither is Ashe the opposite side, when you are going to be wasting some uptime on your units, and that is something you need to be, attentive to when you are playing these Jade setups.
Usually the rule of thumb is to have Ashe in the corner because she has also that, I think it's 5 or 6 attack range, so always going to be able to just immediately attack without having to move or getting stuck and waiting for a tank to move up, for example.
I also want to highlight something here. Sappho is on Metabolic Accelerator, but he is actually not really losing out too heavily. So some would say that he's not getting value. Okay, Odesza.
Is that a Shioyu? Is that a Deja? I mean,
in the same shop, dude. There's even the Leona as well.
Clear that the shops are giving it to him as well. Going to make this easy for him. And this is going to be a great start with Rageblade and Hodge already built. Maybe not best in slot, but definitely very, very decent on Deja. Rageblade definitely best in slot. Hodge, depending on what kind of comp you're facing, what kind of augments you have healing or not, can also be a very viable item to build on this Deja as well.
I'd actually argue that Hodge is more best in slot than a more common than Rageblade is. Rageblade is incredible in... Rageblade is incredible in Spell Sword, right? Because you get those rapid attack speed scaling or like AP scaling from it. But I think that Hodge is just... It's an item that I see a lot of people build because a lot of the time you'll see people go for spell crit on Deja, right? So the Hodge just adds to that layer of damage, as well as it also helps you really finalize, healing options, which are very important for Deja, stuff like that. So you can always remember that we do have the hashtag over on Twitter at TFT Rising Legends. So if you have something to say, it could be something nice about me, something nice about David.
Something nice about Odesza, because he is level 6 on Krugs with a Deja on the board and a pair of Nunus and 5 Mirage already online. A player that, let's not get ahead of ourselves and say he's going to be top 4 guaranteed, but a very good start for him with the augment combination, but also the units he's been able to put onto the bench or onto the board here.
Yeah, I also want to highlight here, right? We saw Odesza be kind of not really fully committing, wanting to pick up the orbs here, right? Like hesitant to pick up the orbs. And when you have clear mind, right, you need to be able to sell. So if you end up being some of the ones that are slowest at killing crocs, you can sometimes end up missing out on a trigger. And I'm actually interested to see how he's going to play this out, right? Because we did talk about the fact that it's not the best Mirage in the world, but when you have this set up to play Mirage from, it is going to be a very nice way for you to really utilize what's going on here, right? And we see Sappho also pretty rich. Deisik, despite losing his streak, is also still relatively in an okay spot when it comes to the economy.
A very good Jade start here for Sappho with the Karma already with the Arcane. Let's move into that Anivia, I imagine, going to the mid game. And again, this is all about finding that Nico and Xiaoyu early on to the fight. Deja has a great angle here for the ult, and I think with the tanking from the Nunu, it's going to be enough here to seal the deal. Karma trying her best, but I think it's not going to be quite enough. Definitely a close one there with that 1v1 in the end to decide that fight. And Sappho will take a small hit in that Spanish Civil War we're seeing to start stage 3.
Yeah, as what we mentioned before, Sappho, metabolic accelerator, so he's not really going to be in this situation. Okay, Deisik, do you have anything you can think fast with? Doesn't look like it. Radiant Relics is never a bad choice. Electro Charge, depending on which you want to go in the more melee-specific composition. Okay, never mind. Goes for something else instead here.
Celestial Blessing, Scale Square Online, better together. Gonna, I think, be pretty good here. What do you think, Wida? I think overall, Celestial Blessing works really well with Skill Score, especially when you're trying to build that Olaf Assassin, where you can't really build BT, you can't really build a healing item. It's gonna, I think, kind of shore up the weakness that maybe Skill Score might have.
Yeah, preparation is just so much power. Like prep is
that's true.
It adds so much damage and so much in general, just like utility, right? For example, the Shen right here is going to be extra magic resistance to the people in there. It's going to be extra damage for something like the Diana that was buffed recently as well. So it just helps you scale up more. I think it's like akin to like 10 triggers, like over 10 triggers of Stand United once fully stacked. The big kicker, obviously, but Deisik is that there is no Olaf on the bench currently stacking, but he's feeling like he's in a position where he doesn't have to go deeper down here to try to find something like an Olaf 2 to feel stable. You can see why, right? This board surrounding it right now is in a pretty good spot. Suso here with a pretty interesting augment choice here, right? Like trade sector plus high-end shopping. Like why do you like see that going, David?
Well, there's a natural synergy, obviously, between having the better shops and being able to reroll more often for those better shops. But that's 2 augments that are not giving you any board strength.
We have is that real? Do we actually have 5 high-end shoppings? That would be crazy.
The shopping spree will begin. The doors of the mall have opened up, Wida, and there are only legendaries on sale.
Speaking of high-end shopping, you can, type TFT Forest in chats, and then you can, get a discount on the first tree planted. That was some high-end shopping as well for the world, so,
This is a TFT Black Friday edition. I'm not sure I want to be there once these players stomp in for those dragons.
But this is fantastic news for Deisik, though, right? Because, it just means that while, yes, these players, they are going to, get high-end shops, stuff like that, they are not scaling in. They're not gaining combat power from their augments. So they're, technically speaking, they're down a prismatic. I mean, but if everyone is down a prismatic, no one's down a prismatic, right? But Deisik has do you really want to classify preparation as a combat augment? Not really, but it adds combat power to your board, right? So he's going to be, once these units start getting upgraded, he's going to be in a very good spot to work with.
Yeah, going to be a very unusual lobby. It's not really the case that you have a prismatic lobby or prismatic tier augment for the second choice, and you have 4 players that are going just for high-end shopping that don't have any board strength, and definitely change how maybe players expect a prismatic lobby to start off at and to end, really coming into stage 4 and 5. See what's.
This is one of the most important carousels of the game. The stage 3, the free fall carousel is so important because this is like where you really need to be able to slam your first couple of items and start working on that clear direction. Unless you're still working on a lost streak and you're still just waiting for the all-in on 4-1 type situation. But if you can give anything that's going to give you any sense of direction, that's going to be great. Again, Sweller, he's not re-rolling set. I know we were talking about that. You guys were talking about this yesterday, and I do think it's a card that we can expect to see at some point. He's just utilizing the featherweights too as a flex option to get him to level 8 or level 9 even. So interesting, right, this is going to go again. Another player here that has an actual combat augment, has 2 combat augments. He's not down a prismatic right now. He is going to be putting in the hurt in the lobby.
And a very unusual board. This is not a kind of a setup of units comp that you see at this stage of the game. But again, like you mentioned, utilizing featherweights to its full potential, utilizing units like Aatrox and Set that we mentioned are just very strong in stages 2 and 3, especially when itemized, especially when they have obviously the extra attacks and featherweights as well. And 100 win streak for him, 8 win streak rather, 100 HP. If he's able to maintain this all the way into stage 4, I think going to be set up for a top 4 just from the HP buffer alone.
Yeah, but again, this IE Jewel Lotus from Petikk here doing a lot of damage. It's not going to be exactly enough to stay in it, but it was looking dicey for just a while here. Again, with the changes to Ezreal in this patch as well, right? It made him a better holder of items like the Rage Blade, like the Archangel Staff, stuff like that. So we're really seeing the changes here coming through on Ezreal just to ensure that he is in a spot where he can actually do a lot of work in these early game situations.
Yeah, at least for stages 2 and 3. Obviously, stage 4, this board is going to be completely different because the units will, essentially expire when it comes to their actual, combat strength and what they can do in fights coming to stage 4 when the dragons come online, and obviously the board will be mostly very, very different. Most of these players, gluteus, we're seeing here on more of a mage than a cannoneer angle. We haven't seen many cannoneer players actually in this game, surprisingly enough, considering some games yesterday we saw up to 5 players on cannoneers.
Yeah, and we also saw a lack of Nomsy openers, right? I think that is a big kicker as well, because when you don't have the Nomsy to start building up early, because with the current state of Corki, even though Corki didn't really go changed and like all the dragons were brought down, Corki doesn't always just help you stabilize. So you really need to have that extra damage coming through from that 2 or 3 star, even 4 star Nomsy at times.
Very early Bard here as well for gluteus maximus, but Odesza, clear mind, the early Deja still doing fantastic. Hasn't really lost much HP since he was able to get his Deja online. I think he was at 84, now at 80, so maybe just lost 1 fight all throughout the rest of stage 2 and all of this stage 3 basically. And in a very good spot, level 7 already, going to be able to go 8 very quickly, maybe slot in that full Mirage board with Yasuo early on, getting those extra early rolls. And again, a player that has a very good projection for that top 4.
Yeah, looking at the Tesla setup right here, right, you can know it's pretty obvious what he was doing here. There's he's 50 gold, he's 54 gold here. This could be a 4-2 angle, to be honest. He's clear minding as well, right, which means that he is going to be gaining at this point in time. He has gained a lot of extra XP for free. I mean, here we see the concept I was talking about before, not picking up the orbs because he doesn't want to have to make decisions about selling units off. As you can see, a lot of gold here as well, meaning that's going to be pretty important. So just selling off, is he just going to hold this for now?
Might just sell it off again. Yone, once you find Yasuo, Yone is going to be thrown out of the comp in most cases. So I guess just hedging on the fact that he's still very healthy, maybe able to go directly to 9 by saving up enough gold with Clear Mind as well. If he's able to maybe tank a few hits throughout the stage 4 and just get his board online and just roll down and pretty much guarantee he has all the upgrades when he needs them.
I mean, this is a fantastic time for him to fight Deisik as well. This is Deisik with boss spike. It is going to be a Diana 2, but there's no Olaf 2. There is no Olaf item, stuff like that, right? This is a very good place and time. Also, with the Diana being opposite side means that his loss is going to be way less severe than it could have been. Like, it's still an incredibly severe loss. I'm not saying that, right? But look at this. The Diana is being stuck on the wrong side, so this could have been an even bigger loss. And going to 9 here, I think, is... It is doable, but you have to be very confident in how you're going to be spiking, because you have to remember, the second people in your lobby starts going to level 8, they'll have these level 9 shops coming through from that thing. Dragon Alliance, this could change everything, especially because you do have that Mirage spat from the Mirage Heart. Ascension, again, we know this, like, it's a fantastic Arc for Deja. Extra Mark is not as bad as it used to be. This could be a very good spot to go for Dragon Alliance, and I think
especially with the kind of the level lead he has with Clear Mind and all the gold he has saved up. Obviously, Dragon Alliance, you need to have gold for this to work. You need to have gold to buy dragons and 2-star them as well and be able to stabilize while doing so. And it's not going to be the case, though. Axiom Arc is going to be the pickup instead. Opting to not go too crazy. Already, the Yasuo has been found and has been slotted in.
Speaking of, we have Dragon Heart here coming through from gluteus. Okay, that's a Shyvana pair.
Already?
Okay, it's business.
No Siphon found, maybe hoping to get that Siphon Silas combo already with Silas 2. Instead, it will be Shyvana. Shyvana, one of the all-star units yesterday. I mean, just performed oh so well. In every single game we saw, she was popping off.
And again, we were talking about this concept earlier on, like we were expecting to see 3 or 4, even more Dragon Alliances, Dragon Hordes if they were an option, right? Like you can see right now, Petikk also instantly takes that as well. And it's such a powerful combination with the high-end shopping, right? You're going to be more likely to find your Shyvanas, your AO Shins, your tier 4 dragons, because you just have that much better odds for this. This is just like how the game goes. And like it's going to be a really weird one to follow, because not everyone that's going to pick this augment is going to top 4 most likely, right? I don't think Sweller took it, and Sweller is in a fantastic position. So, again, like you just like Suso level 7 just casually sitting on a pair.
What is going on with Noerum's board? He was 8-8-8 to start things off yesterday. 3 wins in a row. Currently sitting 8th place, 30 HP gap to 7th, and at 10 HP. Halfway through stage 4, not a great spot to be, and this board does not look like a board that's going to survive another fight. Shyvana has been found, yes, but is that going to be enough?
I don't think so, because you're going to have to transition into the AO Shin instead here. Instead of AO Shin 1, don't see that it's going to be Mage AO Shin, though, which is going to be pretty lovely, but you're looking at Rune Hand, you're looking at items that are not necessarily fantastic.
All 1-star, I think it's not going to survive for enough time for AO Shin to maybe even cast. You're going to have the double mage cast, but does AO Shin
he's fine. He's fine. He has Soe too. He's fine.
Looks like it's going to be the case there. Going to get a win here for Noerum. As you mentioned, Zoe 2, not necessarily a tank, not necessarily a front lane, but again, all AO Shin wants is for time to be bought, stalls to happen, so that cast can come out.
Exactly. Again, Soe 2 is such a big thing, right? I'm still kind of not so, I wouldn't say surprised, but puzzled a little bit why the sword came down. I think he was kind of stuck in thinking. It's a very high octane transition that he had to make right there. Like you have to really figure out where your items are going, because he's down to his last life. There's just no two ways about it, especially with how the lobby is looking. There's dragons on every single board pretty much, so even 1 unit losses are going to be like 2 unit losses. So he cannot afford to take a single loss from this point on to close out the game. He has to figure out a way for him to go in and get 5 mage in play to really start ramping up that damage from the AO Shin. Mage AO Shin is such a good stabilizer to keep an eye out for.
That is unfortunate. The tier was on. The bard has to remake the bard to be able to build this Shojin, I imagine, onto the AO Shin. Finds the orange 2-star here as well. So this is what he needs. He needs more frontline. He needs the comp to stall out for this AO Shin to do its thing. But AO Shin now with Shojin to be able to cast much quicker, not needing as much time from this front lane.
Yeah, and again, this is why the sword was already pre-slammed onto the AO Shin, right? I just didn't clock it fully, because it didn't have a full grasp of his components, because again, we had the augment overlay kind of blocking it for a bit. But now we're talking about Sweller and how he had to transition, and he's still mid-transition. But look at SwellerTiger's bench right now. There are options en masse.
And with carousel priority as well, I think Noerum was pretty safe in assuming he would be able to get a tier as well going to that last carousel we saw. One thing that Noerum has to watch out for is Deisik. There's going to be assassins, and this AO Shin is going to be in big trouble. He has to be, extremely vigilant. If Deisik is in his player pool at 10 HP, you cannot take a big loss to skill scorn at this point in stage 4, or it might be the end of the game right when you're finally able to stabilize.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the case. He has to lock this shop to get the AO Shin right. Again, he has the same combination we saw from Chuso, I believe, as well, right? The trade sector plus high-end shopping combination. So he is going to be more likely to find his options. Speaking of Chuso, he is currently on a 2-star Siphon in a Jade setup. Interestingly enough, here I think this is just more so a way for him to just use what he has and try to get a strong position. It's not necessarily a board that you aim to build in that fashion. It just kind of happens. And Odesza, he is still level 7, but he does have the Shyvana on board. We saw that earlier on. Has found the Nico now, so gets that extra transformation HP. Frozen Heart could be big as well. Let's see how this fight goes.
I think not quite big enough, though. I think AO Shin is going to be able to get the cast off. The diagonal from Sona is not hitting AO Shin or Zoe. It's going the other way, so I think it's going to be a pretty good fight for Noerum. And Noerum, I mean, we talked about it yesterday so many times as well. Players having a loss streak start, looking doomed going to stage 4 with 10 HP, with 15 HP, but able to stabilize. We saw Royson do it multiple times as well, and maybe able to, navigate their way up to the top 4 of this lobby, because AO Shin, again, is one of the strongest late game comps. As long as you're able to find that very stable front line, the Zoe, for example, as well, that has great items already built in with the attack speed coming in.
Yep.
And the AO Shin in the shop as well.
I rate taking this, right? Because it's Spear of Shojin for the Zoe. It's also a claw to help you. Wait a second, that was a sin spot. Deisik not having it. Deisik has been speaking a lot about how he's not necessarily a big fan of Assassin Olaf. I think that's kind of the case for a lot of players where, like, if they have a choice between Cavalier Spat or Sin Spat Olaf, they'll take the Cav Spat any day of the week. Also, he already has the guild emblem on the Olaf, so he can't really afford to have another Spat on there, and by that, a damage loss as well. I think that is also something you need to look out for, right? His board, well, it is strong. With the fact that we're transitioning into stage 5 now, we are going to be seeing players here that are going to be, kind of outscaling this, especially because he hasn't found either of his 3-star free costs yet. And speaking of one of those players, he's going to be SwellerTiger. He's put himself in a very tough spot when it comes to transitioning. He does have that Aoshin too, which is going to be a massive spike. But looking at the front line, right?
Yeah,
he's lacking the front line compared to something like Noerum, right? Like Noerum has the front line, but it's not here for Sweller. This Aoshin 2 has to do it all for him.
SwellerTiger is at 65 HP, so has a lot more HP to work with, where he has time to lose a few fights and still find that Orc 2, still find that Silas 2, compared to Noerum that is at 10 HP and is maybe just one loss away from being eliminated in 8th place in this game 1 of day 2. We're going to see if Aoshin is able to get his cast off. It will be the case, but still the entirety of the opponent's team left alive, but it looks like it's not going to be a problem at all. Sona can't do anything. Gluteus now going to jump down to 4 HP. Noerum looks like able to still stay alive in this case.
Yeah, but it's just about right. Like, he's not even remotely close to chilling right now. Noerum has this is Petikk's board actually, so we're seeing a lot of Aoshin.
This is going to be very difficult for Aoshin to be found.
Yeah, it's like every Aoshin out of the pool bar one actually at this point in time, right? Like,
so Petikk and Noerum going to have to fight for maybe this last one. The high-end shopping as well makes it so that it's
Gluteus is just chilling with an Aoshin shop. They can't find it. I don't think they can find it.
Gluteus has done the math. The EU math has come through.
There's a single one in rotation. I'm not even lying. Okay, speaking of 10-star Chaos Dragons, there is a Shyvana. So if Matthias, by some magical fashion here, is able to stay alive for just a second here, he's going to be in with a fantastic spike coming through next turn. But this Siphon 2 is going to be a big issue. Like, no, it's not. Right? It's just that.
And you might look at the comps that are being built in this lobby, Wida, and say, this is a very unusual game of TFT, but with 4 players on high-end shopping, it kind of makes sense that there are so many Aoshin 2s and Shyvana 2s being built. Gluteus Maximus, unfortunately, gets taken down there. 8th place for the German player, shut things off. Not where you want to be at the very start of this day 2. And we'll see if Noerum or Petikk are able to find that upgrade they need oh so desperately.
This is one of the wildest games of TFT I've seen all set, and I played like...
Yeah, it's just... It's going to be so unusual going to the late game with 4 players on high-end shopping.
And I played like 300 myself. I've sat in calls with challenger players for another 200 probably, right? This is one of the wildest games that I've seen just in general. Like, the context of this game is so wild. Like, what the quadruple high-end shopping is allowed is just insane.
And SwellerTiger probably feeling very fortunate that he was able to hit that early Aoshin 2. Doesn't have to worry about actually just missing out and not finding that power spike when he needs it the most going to the late game. But the battle of the Aoshins here, the Shojin coming in clutch, but it's not quite enough to take down the opponent's comp. The battle of the rain from above. Is it going to be the case? Yeah, it looks like SwellerTiger is still going to win this one unless the cast can come out from Noerum.
It's not going to be enough. The cast goes off in time. And he's alive at 1
HP.
He's at 1, David.
The Spanish players are trying their best to race Noerum to that 7th place. Unfortunately, Safo now down to 4 HP. Chuso still at 22, so still relatively healthy. Has maybe 1 or 2 fights left in him if he were to lose the next 2 as well.
Yeah, this is just insane, right? Safo does have the metabolic as well, I do believe, still clocking away, right? So he has a way back into the game should he be able to find the last few upgrades or have gotten that one bad match out of the pool. Does he even have like a Soraka on board? I've seen people hit Soraka too. It might have been Chuso who hit Soraka too, actually. Oh, Safo has Soraka too. So we're at Dragon versus what's going on?
Aoshin.
Yeah, it's like the entire world is just an Aoshin right now.
In the shop here. Oh no. This is Aoshin, the movie for game 1. I have never seen so many. And normally it's 1 player that is able to somehow
maybe 2.
Maybe 2, but definitely not 4.
I mean, like, this is, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. This is wild to me as well, though. Positioning here is going to be...
Every single fight is going to be Aoshin mirrors.
To be fair, like, Safo here got a gift. He's placing a ghost. What I didn't get a gift from here is the positioning of the Siphon, which is going to charge directly into the backline. It's going to get blocked by the statue, luckily. But positioning-wise, there is a minor mistake, right? Because he's positioning into the Sona. He's also positioning directly into the Siphon.
Big kill on Ao Shin. The Siphon looks like it's not going to be able to even get this. Final cast does come through, but ends up running away from the Ao Shin. 2 casts come through, and that's going to be the fight win there. And Deisik with skill scorn. Not doing so hot now. Noerum with 1 HP still manages to stay alive there.
Yeah, and again, right, like, we're talking about the fine margins here. Had that not been the Ghost, there's a high chance that he's out there in suffer, right? Like, he's just... The positioning, like, he made, like, a lot of positioning things there, right? Like, he positioning directly into the Sona, positioning directly into the Siphon without having enough bait to the left of the Siphon for it to charge into. So that is something that he needs to be aware of when he's positioning around here. And it can be really hard, right? Because you're also positioning away from Deisik's assassins at the same time. There are so many things that you need to take care of. And when you are at 11 life, you do not have the room to make those mistakes.
And Deisik's still leveraging his HP, saving up that gold, trying to guarantee the 3 stars on Olaf and Diana, and then gonna maybe go 8 later into the game. But for now, Noerum still trying to do the impossible, stay alive on 1 HP. He was at 10 HP early on in stage 4, has been doing his best to stabilize with his Ao Shin board, has done pretty well, has only lost 1 fight, but in the end, gonna be taken down by Ao Shin on the side of Petikk. The Czech player will eliminate Noerum in 7th, and Safo, the Spanish player, also goes down in this round. 6th place for him.
That is, that's a hard one to swallow, right? You do all this hard work to stay alive all throughout stage 5, and then it's just still a 7th, right? Like,
I think imagine Noerum, he finds the Ao Shin, he stabilizes for a fight or 2, he starts scouting, he sees 4 other players on Ao Shin, he's like, oh no, it's doomed.
Yeah, speaking of here, like, I don't like Chuso is far from doomed actually, right? Like, has a blue buff Yasuo, has a Soraka 2-star Shyvana in the front line. Now has a pretty good setup overall here, right? Petikk 2 as well. It's going to be a massive X factor to work with as well. Like, this setup here has been transitioned nicely, right? We're talking about how the Siphon board he was on before was not where he wanted to end up on, but this is kind of the board you really want to end on. So that's a good play from him. Nice transition, right? Because we highlighted how hard these transitions can be when
this
there's so much
Yasuo with Zephyr for this fight week is going to be so important if it's able to snipe one of the Ao Shin on that backline. We'll see who's in his player pool and what he's able to look forward to. I think this is a good kind of just a bait right now, putting Yasuo in the front, and move it back to the back row at the very start of the fight, or maybe. Yeah, no, that's going to be the case. We'll see if he's able to catch one of these players off guard, catch the Ao Shin in the corner. It's going to be the Zoe instead. Ao Shin is on the opposite side here for SwellerTiger. Still Zoe, a good hit, and Yasuo has moved directly towards the Ao Shin, but I think not going to deal really enough damage until that Ao Shin gets his cast off.
It's an Ao Shin 2 as well. The combination with the Deisik means that it's going to be going slightly low here. I mean, the shield gets proc. Just look at the insane burst of healing, right? It's Celestial Blessing free as well as a Bloodthirster. Like, this Ao Shin is just never dying unless it gets literally 1 shot, and that is most likely not going to happen at this point in time here as well. It's also like kind of hard for Odesza, right, to position a Zephyr like this because of the way that the way it goes, where you want to either Zephyr the Shyvanas or the Siphon, so you have to make a decision trying to go and snipe out those backline carries like the Deisas, like the Ao Shins, right? So it's especially when you don't have it built and you have to take note of it when you are from a TG. Speaking of TGs, well, that's a nice synergy, right? Double Declaw BT.
Not too bad for both the Hecarim and the Yasuo there, but Deja 3 is in the sights there for Odesza. Nunu 3 as well, but Deja definitely the one that would maybe turn the tide for most of these fights coming into stage 6. We're going to see here's Diana jumps into the backline, but really not really backline carries. More Shyvana is going to be doing most of the damage in this fight. Soraka just doing her thing, healing here, and Talon not able to take her down. Can Shyvana do it by herself, Wida?
She should be able to run. He's not even doing it by herself. Like, look at the Petikk. The Petikk is just doing. So, like, again, like Petikk too, like even without Assassin in, is just such a menace, man. Like, it's actually insane, right? Like, you kind of have this like late game Exodia kind of build at level 8 because of the fact that you did have that high end shopping. Petikk can execute targets, and you can like kind of just remove everything on the board. Like, how big of a Nunu 3 is obviously a big spike. I'm not saying that, but like a Petikk 2 is still gonna be better in most situations here. Also, again, like, what is it with these TGs, man? Like, they're so synergistic every time. Like, okay, I'm just gonna get triple aura items here before they got Declaw and BTs.
They're testing the Lucky Gloves from 7.5. It's the code leaked through into this set as well, and that seems to be the case here in this game 1. Players now fighting for their life. Both Spanish players choose on Odesza. Can maybe just be one loss away. And Diana not quite onto. Never mind. The Deja now gets blasted down to half HP, but still alive and still melting the entirety of this comp. Nunu doing so much work now at 3-star with the full itemization there.
Yeah, but worth noting here, right? Deisik continues a streak of top 4s. I think that is a big storyline to take with us from this game in particular, right? Like, you know, I mean, I said it's maybe a little bit too. Okay, you said. I'm speaking it into existence, right? I'm allowed to, David. You're speaking into it every time. So Deisik continues the streak of top 4ing, and I think that's a big storyline to take note of here. Okay, a lot of interesting things: a Skill Skull emblem, Assassin emblem, Cavalier emblem. Also, there's just stuff for hanging out. Like, this carousel is kind of insane to a certain extent, right?
Odesza's Yasuo does have the Thieves Glove, so doesn't have a slot to slam this Cavalier spat. Unless he has an item remover, I'm not entirely sure if that is going to be the case here for Odesza. It looks like it isn't. It's just going to be the Zephyr pickup instead. Again, very, very strong Zephyr in this lobby when there are kind of these comps that are revolving around a singular unit that can usually, you can get a pretty good guess where it's going to be in that backline, either one of the two corners or the two kind of second to the corner slots. So there's kind of a 1 in 4 chance you're able to snipe one of these key units and maybe just win the fight off of that.
Again, the concept we talked about before when it was with the TG, while positioning here can be quite tough because, again, there's Sylvanas and there's the other backline carries. They are still going to be present. You can look at the positioning here as well, right? 2 separate corner carries plus looking at the Leona.
Doesn't quite find it. The Lulu takes the hit instead. Ao Shin gonna be clear to do his thing, deal his damage. No Shojin on this Ao Shin, though, so gonna take a little bit longer to cast, but when he does, so much damage will be coming through. Giant Slayer, Archangel as well. Deja gets immediately deleted. And Odesza was so close to the Deja 3 power spike, but I think it's not going to be quite enough in this case. It's going to be a big enough loss here at this point in stage 6 to be taken down, -6 HP, and 4th place for the Spanish player. So Spanish players, again, sticking together in this game 1, 4, 5, and 6. Spanish players, you know, they know how it is. If they band together, they'll be able to make it through to day 3.
But again, like, I want to highlight something there, right? Good technical play from Odesza, understanding, like, showcasing his understanding of the position that he was in sense, like, what he needed to do. So, again, want to highlight that. Again, it is a top 4 to start off the day. Again, it's only a top 50 cut, top 50% cut again. So, again, if you can continue to get top 4, you are going to be in a good position, and you can then look at your play and take that over tomorrow. But here, now we're looking at a 2-star Ao Shin showdown here. But the X factor of that Dragon Horde buffed Siphon as well is going to be a big one to follow. However, it's very low. There's lack of healing as well. So it's going to be a big one to follow here. Now, the continuous CC just means that the Ao Shin from Petikk just did not get to do anything. Like, it was just not allowed to come out and play.
And not enough damage from the Yasuo here. It looks like Ao Shin will do its thing. Petikk taken down. SwellerTiger streaking 41 HP to work with as well. He won it yesterday with Skill Score. Now he's facing Skill Score, and instead, Deisik is trying his best to try and get that first place in this game 1.
And highlighting here as well, getting the maximum amount of preparation stacks that he can on his units that need them. So the Diana with the items here are going to be on the bench just because of the fact he hasn't combined yet, right? So that is something he needs to look into. He is definitely not, like, he's in a weird position here. That is worth noting. Like, he has to duplicate on the bench. That's going to be a big help. But he still needs to figure out how to, like, where to really go from here, because he is going to be 2 Dianas off and I believe 2 Olafs off as well. So, like, this roll down here is going to be kind of tedious, but he has a clear prio in mind, hopefully for himself. I'm just not fully sure what his prio here is going to be. You could also, like, sit for one more fight if you really wanted to, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Does not find a single copy of what he's needing right now. And that is going to be pretty dire because he is really struggling to, like, get that final little power spike over the line.
And we see here the corner clumping now for SwellerTiger, trying to keep this Ao Shin safe. And the biggest upside is that there is no Olaf assassin. So Diana by herself, I think, doesn't quite have enough damage, enough burst to actually just take down the Ao Shin, even if she finds the right spot, even if she gets the right corner. And he wasn't clumping, but that won't be the case. And I think, in theory, Ao Shin will have enough stall to actually just clean up this fight if he isn't bursted down quickly. And that's going to be the case, it looks like here.
I mean, Diana is working through it right now, right? Talon 2 here, especially with the Scale Scorn emblem, is a massive damage boost as well. The Zoe bubble coming out here, it wouldn't have changed the fight fully, right? But again, it's just one of those, like, small mental things where it's like, okay, that's the downside. That's a Shyvana 2 as well on the bench now. Is Sweller looking and considering a transition here? Like, I wouldn't hate it, to be completely honest, right? Like, it's a more beefy carry. Meanwhile, Deisik does pick up that Olaf free. That might be that last little bit of extra damage needed here to start working through it, right? Again, also by that, transferring those full preparation stacks onto the Olaf. He was missing one before this.
We'll see if that upgrade's gonna be enough. We'd have to actually win this fight. Deisik now at 5 HP, so any loss here, if we're in stage 7, that will be a guarantee, that it will be the end and the final fight here in this game. SwellerTiger still has so much speed to work with as well. 41 HP, Aushin once again protected in that corner. Zoe stalling out with a CC. Massive ults. Now the fight's looking a little bit different from last time. The Aushin gets melted down before he can ult, and a massive hit. SwellerTiger down to 13 HP.
Yeah, and the bot ulti was a big kicker, right? Because it meant that there was no time. And I like this swap. I like this swap a lot, right? Because you have a 2-star Nico, you have the 2-star Shyvana. The transformation HP here gained for both of those units are going to be massive. It's going to be a lot harder for Deisik's scale score units to push through. And that is going to be something that's going to be very nice for him indeed. Another thing that's worth noting, right, is that due to the way there's no Pike right now for Deisik, I'm not sure there will be an upgrade directly. It's much harder for him to kill these clumped units because there's no anti-clumping here, but the setup is going to be pretty insane going into this last fight.
We're going to see if now changing the formula coming into this fight. Aushin has been sold a little bit, maybe too of what we need that can be exploited by this Diana, by the burst amount of damage. Now can Shyvana be the difference maker? Fairly good items, Bloodthirster, Archangels, Giant Slayer melting through most of the comp. Zoe doing his thing as well, but Anna's still untouched. It looks like it's not going to be enough. Skill score once again reigns supreme. Deisik starts off game 1 with a massive win. And this is a player that has been dominating ladder all throughout set 7. And now coming into day 2, dominating tournaments as well.
I mean, I was pointing